Welcome, everyone. The webinar will begin shortly and will be recorded. Connect with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading on social media. On Facebook, like the page Campaign for GLR, and on Twitter, follow the account @ReadingByThird. Please use hashtag Learning Tuesdays and tag us to tweet anything you learn from today's webinar, and we'll be sure to retweet. We encourage you to share your questions, reflections, and observations on social media. Once again, we would love to connect. So on Facebook, like the page Campaign for GLR, and on Twitter, follow the account @ReadingByThird. The webinar will begin shortly. It will be recorded and shared with you afterwards. Okay, once again, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sierra Sanchez, and I will be behind the scenes helping to produce this conversation. I have just a few housekeeping details before we get started. First, we'd love for you to introduce yourself, so please use the chat box at the bottom of the screen to share your name, city or state, and your organization. Be sure when responding to select both panelists and attendees so that we all know who is here. All attendees are in listen-only mode, but we encourage your engagement by posting questions in the Q&A box. We will dedicate the last portion of the conversation to respond to the questions you post. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be emailed on Friday to all who registered. And we are streaming the webinar on Facebook Live. All resources that you see shared as links in the chat will be compiled and shared in a follow-up email to all webinar registrants. And materials are accessible on GLR's Community Learning for Impact and Improvement platform, aka CLIP. We invite you to take a few seconds to create a free account if you have not done so you don't miss any of the material shared. Finally, we'll be posting a brief on-screen evaluation during Q&A and highly encourage you to respond. This helps us with our commitment to continuous improvement. Lastly, before we begin, I would just like to call your attention to our upcoming GLR Learning Tuesdays webinars. Later this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we hope you'll join us for a Learning Tuesday session co-sponsored by Overdeck Family Foundation, focusing on the ways in which high-quality instructional materials and high-quality professional learning enabled stronger homeschool connections during the pandemic and how they can be utilized to address teacher staffing concerns now. Next week, we'll have an exciting doubleheader with a Crucible of Practice Salon at 12:30 Eastern Time, featuring the Moonshot Literacy Movement created by partners in India River, Florida. Later that day, we'll be joined by Miriam Calderon, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Policy and Early Learning at the U.S. Department of Education, on a session exploring English language learners and equitable learning recovery. Lastly, the following week, we'll start off with an exciting funder-to-funder conversation, seizing the moment to philanthropic strategies to promote the child tax credit. Information and registration for these upcoming sessions are posted in the chat box, and we hope you can join us. Well, welcome again, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for today's GLR Learning Tuesday session, Building a Parent Nation, co-sponsored by our partners at TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health at the University of Chicago. While many have worked to support parents and caregivers in aligning to the neuroscience of healthy brain development, we continue to live in a society that remains unaligned to the science. From the lack of paid leave and affordable quality childcare to the lack of adequate and supportive housing and flexible work schedules, society makes it enormously difficult for parents to do right by their children. What would it take to build a parent nation, one that supports parents? That is what we will discuss today with presentations by Dr. Dana Susskind and our longtime colleague Yoli Flores, and commentary from campaign leaders and partners. And to begin that conversation, I am honored to welcome and introduce our moderator for today, Ginger Young. I think you're muted.
Thank you so much, Sierra, and welcome everybody. I am so delighted everyone's here today for today's GLR Learning Tuesdays partner webinar, Building a Parent Nation. Today's presentation and conversation will introduce the GLR network to a bold and audacious vision that could very well make possible what so many of us have worked to ensure: that all parents succeed in their most important job as first teacher, brain builder, advocate, and coach. Many of us in the GLR network have centered parents in our work. We have understood the science of early brain development and worked to ensure that parents have the knowledge and tools to be their child's brain architects so that their children have the best start in life and are on the trajectory of early school success. In this work, we have also learned that for so many, at every turn, where parents are trying so hard to do right by their kids, just as they develop bold goals and begin to envision success for their children, roadblock after roadblock gets in the way. Whether it's issues of poverty or lack of supports that are so essential for parents and caregivers to have in order to prepare the next generation, what is clear is that we live in a society that makes it almost impossible for parents and caregivers to give children what they need to thrive, to be healthy, and to succeed in life. As we've been working upstream, a very special colleague has been developing a plan to change that reality. That is why I'm so excited about this virtual convening. Today, we will have the opportunity to hear from this colleague, Dr. Dana Suskind, whom I will introduce in just a moment. Dana, as she prefers that we call her, will share her journey as a surgeon and her powerful experiences with her patients that led her to write her new book, Parent Nation, which urges us to fight for a society that better supports parents. Dana and her national campaign director, Yoli Flores, will share their vision and the launch of the Building a Parent Nation campaign, inviting us all to join and lock arms with parents to push for a better society that is aligned to the neuroscience and that will put children and families at the center. After Dana's presentation, we will ask the 3 GLR Network colleagues to join the discussion, engage with Dana, and share their reflections. This is truly an exciting conversation, and I'm so honored to be the moderator today. So with that, I'll first introduce our full panel by sharing their short bios and then invite Dr. Dana Suskind to share her remarks. Dana is co-director of the TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health at the University of Chicago, a professor of surgery and pediatrics and director of the Pediatric Cochlear Implant Program. Her clinical work focuses on pediatric cochlear implantation, and her research focuses on optimizing children's foundational brain development and preventing early cognitive disparities and their lifelong impacts. She is the author of the book, 30 Million Words, Building a Child's Brain, and of the forthcoming book, Parent Nation, coming out this next April, which empowers parents to use developmental neuroscience to build a society that works for families and not against them. Yoli Flores is National Campaign Director for Parent Nation and also at the TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health. In this capacity, Yoli is leading the on-the-ground efforts, developing strategic and innovative efforts and tools to help activate parents and allies to join in building a parent nation. Previously, Yoli was Chief Learning Officer at the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, where she led the successful parents initiatives, helping launch GLR Learning Tuesdays and developing the campaign's learning and engagement opportunities framework. Yoli's 30-year career advancing the well-being of children and families has earned her the distinction of being named Social Worker of the Year twice in her region. Welcome, Dana and Yoli. Our commentators today include Beth Duda, Liletta Jenkins, and Jane Park. Beth is based at the Patterson Foundation, where she's been since 2015. She has been one of the driving forces of the Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading, a 4-county effort on the Gulf Coast of Florida, where she works closely with local lead partners and funders, Community Foundation of Sarasota County, United Way Suncoast, and United Way of Charlotte County to drive progress in the region. Liletta M. Children's Policy Council Manager and State Lead for Alabama's Campaign for Grade Level Reading for the Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education. In her position, she oversees the State Children's Policy Council, 67 county children's policy councils, and 5 Campaign for Grade Level Reading communities. She received her Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and Master of Science degree in Management from Faulkner University in Montgomery, Alabama. She resides in Montgomery, Alabama with her 2 children. Jane Park is the director of Too Small to Fail, where she leads the national partnerships with corporations, nonprofit organizations, and associations. Previously, she worked at Sesame Street, helping to develop the whole child curriculum on which the television series is based and integrating the educational component across various media platforms. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us today. And now it is time for Dana Suskind and her keynote. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you, Sifa. First of all, I want to thank you so much for having us here. I want to thank the campaign for really bringing us here. I want to thank Sarah, who's been critical in organizing this, and a special shout out to Ralph Smith, my long-term friend and colleague, who not only supported this book and these ideas from the get-go, he is the matchmaker who brought Yoli and myself together. So I am forever thankful. I'm especially thankful also for all the campaign community members who are on the line today. This is really an alignment with all that you're doing in supporting parent success. So thank you for all that you do for parents and children across the nation. First, I really want to make it clear that speaking on Zoom is not my natural habitat. I know it's not for you all either, but really for me, it's not. Believe it or not, I feel most comfortable in the OR, operating just millimeters from a child's brain. That's because, as Beth mentioned, my day job is as a pediatric physician and a surgeon that specializes in giving children born deaf cochlear implants, which allow them access to sound, hearing, and language. I became an ENT and a cochlear implant surgeon because I thought I could help children one child at a time. And also in large part because of my fascination and really focus on the brain. People often think about hearing as the ears, but it really is all about the brain. And that became extremely clear early in my practice when I started seeing dramatic differences in outcomes amongst my patients. The ability to hear, it turned out, didn't always unlock their full capacity to learn and thrive intellectually. It was a painful difference to observe. Compelled to understand the origins of these differences and importantly, how I could best help my patients, I began a journey far outside the operating room into the world of social sciences and to you today. I discovered a rich body of literature that reveals that the importance of early language environment, the science that shows that language input, and in particular, the nurturing back and forth conversation with a parent and caregiver stimulates every part of an infant's brain and really shapes their lifelong capacity for learning. I know you all know this so well. This evolutionary gift, a short window of time in which we can set up a child for success in life by nurturing his or her foundational brain development, guides most of my work, just as I know it guides yours. In 2010, when I launched the 30 Million Words Initiative, now the TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health, my primary goal was to help ensure the healthy development of all children and to give every child the ability to reach his or her potential intellectually and emotionally. Brain science pointed the way. Everything we did in design was based on the fact that nurturing talk and interaction between caregiver and infant really lays the foundation for healthy brain development. It is and always has been about the power of parents, something that I know that you all believe in deeply. My team and I developed evidence-based programs and strategies to show parents the impact of talking to babies and young children. Those strategies became the theme of TMW. Tune in, talk more, take turns, or what we affectionately call the 3 Ts. And we conducted numerous rigorous studies of our programs. We found that indeed our strategies worked and the science that supports them is solid. The programs we promote can and often do improve the lives of children. But as our research programs took us into more and more families' homes and into their lives, I realized just how much was being asked of parents. We were getting to know many families up close and over time. The parents' enthusiasm was thrilling. They embraced the 3 Ts with gusto, tuning in to their children, talking more as they went about their daily lives and taking turns, really encouraging their children to participate in conversations. They wanted what all parents want, to help their child get off to the best start in life. The problem though, the problem was that the 3 Ts only took parents so far. Real life, I found, would intrude again and again and again. There was Randy, who loved the fact that talking about his love of baseball, Cubs, never White Sox, could help his son learn math, but had to work 2 jobs and most days had less than 30 minutes with his children. There was Sabrina, who gave up a well-paying job to care for her husband when he got sick, and whose family ended up spending over 2 years in a homeless shelter where she raised 2 children, the youngest still a baby, in a stressful and chaotic environment. Most searing of all was Michael and Kiana, whose life was completely upended when he was arrested for a crime that he did not commit and sat in jail for 5 years, waiting for a trial that quickly exonerated him in a day and a half. Everywhere I looked, I saw hurdles looming in front of mothers and fathers. I realized with both sadness and resolve that our programs can share with parents the knowledge and powerful skills that build their children's brains, but our programs do not substantially change the day-to-day lives of parents who participate. Reflecting on what I was seeing, I began to look beyond my patients and the predominantly low-income families who are participating in TMW programs to the entirety of the tens of millions of parents in the United States who have children. And I saw how, regardless of income level, far too many parents are being sidelined by some degree by our country's unfamily-friendly policies. Now, this is not to minimize the Herculean struggles of poor families or to suggest that more affluent families face equivalent challenges. There is no equivalency, but nonetheless, it remains true that American society has abdicated its responsibility for all families. This reality, of course, became painfully apparent during COVID-19, which left families reeling. The pandemic was like a powerful earthquake with lingering aftershocks that showed us just how shaky our nation's infrastructure of support for families and therefore their children really was. The bottom line is we have made it difficult for all parents to raise their children in our country, and almost impossible for some. After all, this is a country where it's illegal to separate a puppy from its mother in the first 8 weeks of life. Yet 1 in 4 mothers is forced to go back to work after only 2 weeks of giving birth. In fact, the United States is only one of 38 OECD countries not to mandate paid parental leave, and it sadly looks like it is remaining that way. We also spend less on early childhood care and education than almost any developed nation, which results in the fragmented childcare system that we know so well. Approximately a half of all Americans live in so-called childcare deserts. And in many states, childcare for infants costs more than college tuition. And yet, a great majority of parents have to or want to work. Given all of this, it's not exactly surprising that the US differs from other countries on another important measure, parental happiness. Put it simply, parents in this country lack support and they lack choices. No matter their political affiliation or religious orientation, employment or educational status, too many seem to be struggling. And while it may be that we're on verge of seeing real change across several of these policies, if Build Back Better framework is adopted, we are still far away. But long before I even knew that we need to build back from anything, let alone a devastating global pandemic, I began writing a new book, Parent Nation. I knew that the world didn't need another how-to book for what parents can and should be doing, though I guarantee you my publisher would have liked it. Instead, I thought perhaps a book that shows how the brain science can inform a society that works for parents, not against them, could help shift the narrative and lighten the burdens that so many parents carry. Some of you may be wondering if the events in Washington make this book unnecessary. And let me tell you, I would love nothing more than for that to be true. But I don't believe that it is. We've seen in recent weeks that parents are hardly front and center in negotiations over legislation. We know that even if it passes, many of the bill's most exciting pieces are only funded for 6 years. And I know that conventional wisdom says that they'll never be cut. but I'm not willing to assume that to be true. After all, the very effective Shepherd-Towner Maternity Act and Infants Protection Act was allowed to expire after just 8 years back in the last century. So I hope that Parent Nation can help make the case for long-term sustained support for parents. I cannot wait for you all to read this book. And thanks to a generous grant from Hearing First, an educational endeavor by the Oberkauter Foundation, everyone here is eligible to receive a free copy when it comes out next year. And this is a little QR code in case you haven't signed up. And when you read it, and I'm expecting all of you all to read it, you'll see a little Easter egg. Even Ralph Smith shows up within it. I should mention also that I love the title, but I also want to be clear that when I say parent, I'm really referring to any loving caretaker, moms, dads, step-parents, adoptive parents, grandparents, anyone who loves and cares for a child. As I was writing, I spoke to dozens of parents from all walks of life, and I was struck by time and time again how much they shared in common. Even parents who seemed to have nothing in common on the surface told me stories and shared thoughts, concerns, and fears that were incredibly similar. Though their circumstances differed wildly, the fact that they were struggling to parent in the way that they wanted, in the way that they knew best for their child, that was universal. At the very moment when parents and children could use the most help, and when that help would have an outside influence by strengthening the neural connections, society does nothing or makes things worse and harder on parents. How did we end up here with a status quo that leaves parents struggling and unhappy and almost totally void of systemic support? Look, the explanation is complex, but there is a consistent theme that prevails, the mythic idea of American individualism. The notion that Americans can be tough and independent prevails, and it perpetuates this going it alone as a virtuous idea. The result is to convince parents that they should be able to shoulder the enormous responsibility of early childhood on their own without formal supports. The bottom line is that we have no expectations that society should play a role in helping us optimize the healthy brain development of our children. Indeed, expecting societal help is often viewed as weakness. So we suffer alone, but we suffer collectively as well. When the ultimate intellectual development of children is hampered, we all lose. But if the consequences of our broken system are shared collectively, so should the solutions. There are tens of millions of parents in the United States, and though we differ on many ways, we are united by the experience of being parents, by sleepless nights, by the depth of our love, by an overwhelming desire to do right by our children. Despite all that we share, for some reason, parents have yet to forge a collective identity. Too often, instead, we retreat to our respective corners, defined by some characteristic or label other than parent. But if parents in the early years would come together, we'd have the potential to be the largest special interest group in the country. I firmly believe that by lifting our voices as one for good, we can fight for our needs and our children's needs. But where do we start? How do we move forward? Fortunately, the neuroscience, always bring it back to the neuroscience, gives us a roadmap. Just as it tells us what to prioritize individually as parents, I believe the neuroscience can show us where to go as a society as well. It can lay out the coordinates that will lead us towards healthy brain development for all children. That goal, laying the foundation for optimal brain development, should be our constant guide. Neuroscience tells us that we must begin when learning begins, not on the first day of school, but the first day of life. It tells us that children's earliest and most impactful brain architects are their parents and caregivers. And it tells us that environment matters. Stable, calm environment fosters socio-emotional skills and executive function, whereas disruptive environments impede their development. In short, developing children need time, enrichment, and protection. And guess what? Parents need the same thing. If neuroscience is our map, it is parents who are doing the steering. Parents are the captains of their family's ships, manning the helm, and every captain needs a crew to help ensure a safe voyage. Loving mothers and fathers don't need a PhD or expensive gadgets to do an excellent job at supporting early brain development. They need access to basic but critical knowledge. They need time with their children to put that knowledge into practice and nurture those connections. They need high quality childcare to complement their efforts, and they need to be able to provide their children with stress-free homes. And critically, they need support for this formative endeavor from employers, from healthcare, from communities and policymakers. Parents are the architects of their children's brain development, but they are also the architects of society's future. It is only when we create a movement to support parents in their journey that we as a society can support the needs of early childhood. And that is why I am so incredibly excited to be here with you all, who have been building a parent movement all along, building momentum towards a future where families are championed and all children are guaranteed the promise of their promise. In other words, a parent nation. Just as laying the foundations for healthy brain development means connecting all parts of the brain, laying the foundation for a parent nation means connecting all parts of society that rarely intersect. From those of us who are already fighting for children, families, and parents across the country, to healthcare system, from private industry to federal, state, and local government, it's crucial that all of society plays an active role in this effort. All of this is in my book, of course, but I can't assume that people are going to read it, except for you all, of course, which is why we are launching a coordinated campaign alongside the book to help spread these ideas far and wide, to help bring them to life. I am so excited to invite the campaign communities, each and every one of you all, to join us in this effort. Your deep commitment to parents, no one is better suited to help build support for a society that truly places family at the center. Indeed, you have been doing this all along. I cannot wait for Yoli to share more about the ways that you can get involved in the campaign to build a parent nation. To number one, join us in fostering community, forging collective identity, and fighting for change. And if you remember nothing else from today, I hope you'll remember the 3 F's. In the same way as the 3 T's are at the heart of building a child's brain, the 3 F's are at the heart of building a parent nation. And there are a couple of important E's there too, because if we are to succeed, it is critical that we collectively elevate our expectations. And with that, I want to say thank you for listening, and I would like to turn it over to my colleagues, if I can figure out how to do this.
Thank you so much, Dana. That was deeply inspiring. I'm going to certainly remember the 3 F's. And at the same time that was inspiring, was also quite sobering, and gave us some food for thought about the stakes that our village of parents that we all work with and for are facing every day. It really didn't take COVID for most of us to see it, but it's daunting, and yet your book and the campaign that's going to go with it and that is already starting gives me a lot of hope personally. I want to turn to our 3 commentators now to draw on your marvelous keynote, Dana, and just ask Beth, Liletta, and Jane, having just heard Dana walk through some of the insights and recommendations that will be in this book, Parent Nation, that comes out in April. Be sure to get your copy, everybody. I'm eager to hear your thoughts and reflections on what she said. Where do you see alignment between Dana's comments and the work you are doing to create conditions for parent success in each of your communities? Beth Duda with the Patterson Foundation and a large community in Florida that's been doing this work I know for many years. Let's start with you.
Right. Thank you, Ginger. And thank you, Dana, for giving us a glimpse into what we can expect in April. Ever since Yoli first contacted me, and I've had an opportunity to talk to you a little over the past few months about this book, I've been very excited about the way it aligns with the work that we're already doing with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. We understand the critical importance of brain building in the first days of life, but all in those first 5 years of life, and to make sure that parents have access to the tools that can really help them take on that role as their child's first, and we certainly hope best teacher. And we know from connecting with parents in our community and also connecting with agencies and organizations that wish to further the success of our parents, that there are many, I call them speed bumps, but I certainly appreciate that you call them roadblocks, because I think we've all experienced those struggles. And if we can move beyond compliance, where I think we're stuck there a lot of the time, that, we're only required to do this much, or this particular program allows us to have this much, and it puts us in a space of scarcity. And if we can truly build a parent nation that is all about aspirations for our families and children, not what is the minimum that we can give them, but what is the maximum, what is that pursuit of excellence that our children deserve. And I love the phrase you use, the promise of their promise, because what a great aspiration for all of us to have. And I think that the whole notion of a parent nation gives us a framework that so much of all of our work fits into, and gives us a focus where we can bring in many of the different things we're doing under this solid umbrella that gives us direction. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. That was wonderful and thought-provoking. Liletta from the Alabama's Campaign for Grade Level Reading. Do you have some thoughts to share related to Dana's keynote?
I do. I bring you greetings from Alabama, and thank you, Ginger and Dana. And as I was listening to Dana, I was thinking, wow, I can't wait to read this book. And then also reflecting on how much it aligns with the work that we're doing with the Alabama Campaign for Grade Level Reading. This year, we did a statewide needs assessment from 67 counties. And family engagement was one of the top pressing issues across the state of Alabama from 67 counties. And so we have started to fight for change. One of the F's, we were like, okay, we're already trying to make sure that parent has the resources that they need to be able to raise their children successfully. We're having those conversations that learning begins at birth, and the importance of brain development and language development. And so we're already starting to have those conversations with parents across the state of Alabama. And then also, one of the key things that you said that I just underlined was environment matters. Oftentimes, our parents, as they're trying to do the best that they can to parent, and they're trying to parent in so many different circumstances, but environment matters to be able to raise productive children. And we want to be able to make sure that parents have the tools and the resources that they need in order to do this most critical job. And so here in Alabama, we have a statewide resource that's available to all families. It's called the Alabama Family Central. And so this is a web-based resource where all parents can tap into it to find out about what resources are available to them. As I travel across the state of Alabama, I noticed that the average parent that's trying to rear and raise children, they don't know about what resources are available to them. And so we want to do a better job of trying to be that connector to resources and services, and to be able to help them in their as they raise their children. So kudos to you. Again, I can't wait to read this book. It is definitely going to help to lift up the work that we're already doing in Alabama.
Thank you, Liletta. You're reminding me that so much of what we're talking about starts with the basic premise that access to information is something that is within reach for parents. And Unfortunately, that's often not the case. It sounds like in Alabama, you're doing some amazing things to help create that ecosystem of access. So that's marvelous, and certainly a foundational piece of everything else that follows. Jane Park with Too Small to Fail, do you have some thoughts for us?
Yes, thank you. And big thanks to our wonderful partner, CJLR, for hosting this event, to Yoli. And thank you, Dana, for our wonderful advisor at Too Small to Fail from the very beginning, for writing this very important book. I'm speaking on behalf of a parent of 2 young children, as well as an educator, and through my role at Too Small to Fail. Letta, you spoke about, I wrote down the same quote, environment matters. At Too Small to Fail, we've been focused on promoting children's early brain and language development, and we've been leading a national public awareness and action campaign called Talking is Teaching, Talk, Read, Sing, and so delighted to see so many of our incredible partners here on this webinar. And what we've learned through our work, we've been sharing resources, and Dana, through your guidance and expertise, sharing a lot of, creating messages about the importance of talking, reading, and singing, and how important these language-rich interactions are from birth. What we recognized over the years was that the environment that families are spending time in, we know that 80% of their waking hours are spent outside of the school environment. So whether it's the bus stop or the laundromat or the playground or the grocery store, they're not really built or designed in ways that even support these interactions. And Dana, you speak so much about the conditions in which our children and families are growing up in. And so we've embarked on this adventure, we call it a learning journey, of creating spaces that are more language rich and make it easier to be a parent. And much of this work was really grounded by listening to parents and caregivers about the kinds of spaces and neighborhoods that they wish for their children. And so often, especially groups who have been historically underrepresented in these conversations, I have to be honest in saying that we're not there yet, but we're trying our best, especially in the past year and a half. Also from the beginning, but this continues to be a journey for us to center our work in the voices of families. And I'll just provide a couple examples of how we've been doing that. And eager to learn more strategies through your book, Dana. But we've been, before we embark in designing any new space, whether it's a grocery store, a playground, or a laundromat, just hearing from parents, what are your greatest challenges? Where are the opportunities? What do you wish to see? What are spaces that are hard for you to be a parent? Are there spaces you love, and how can we design them in ways that just ease your burden and make it even more fun and learning rich? At our summit, and we've shared this as a team internally, but how often have we been to events that are focused on families? And who's at the podium? You know, it's probably kind of the elected official or the expert. And then how often do we notice the parent with the baby in the back, right? And so we've been thinking a lot about these dynamics and the power dynamics. And at our national summit, we actually kicked off our summit, our opening conversation, with a parent panel to really anchor this whole event and this webinar, whether it's a webinar or meeting, anchoring the event, starting with their voices about their hopes and wishes. And one of the questions that Deputy Assistant Secretary of Early Learning, Miriam Calderon, was asked was, if you had a magic wand, how would you transform your neighborhood? And it was just such a rich, kind of heartfelt, often emotional conversation about parents' struggles and challenges. Looking ahead into 2022, we're excited to bring together Family Advisory Board with representing diverse parents from across the country, as well as other caregivers, grandparents, uncles, and others who are gonna really guide our work. Whether it's content, whether it's a family resource we're developing, a new toolkit, or designing new spaces. Again, this is a learning adventure for us, and eager to hear from other panelists, as well as from this book, on how we can continue this work. And it continues to be a learning journey, but this is very important to us, and not only listening, but creating opportunities and space for parents to have a voice, because we know that so many parents feel like they don't have a voice and don't even know where to get started.
Thank you, Jane. All so true. And the chance to really elevate the voices of parents in our work, whether it's in a local community, on a neighborhood block, or at a national level of convenings, is something that we all, I think, believe in the aspiration to, and all have work to do on. And I'm really so thrilled to think about the ways in which we can make progress in the aftermath of COVID with things like Parent Nation coming out to really bring ourselves all up to the next level, and make the progress continue, because there's so far to go. I want to ask each of you, and so many people, I feel like even though we're on Zoom, I can just feel the energy coming out. It feels like we are in a village of like-minded souls who have dedicated their life's work in many cases to these very questions that we're grappling with today. So it's thrilling to think that we're sparking other conversations back in people's communities. Maybe we can keep the conversation going somehow after today. But I'd love to hear from our three commentators about how we might advance efforts to truly build a parent nation, a society that supports parents in the critical roles they play in their children's lives. We've talked about the need for it. What are your thoughts on how we do this work? We only have a few minutes, but I want to just, again, go from Beth to Liletta to Jane and just get some quick thoughts before we go to Yoli. Beth?
Thank you, Ginger. The word that keeps circulating through my mind is the word connection. That we have to find ways and continue to find ways to really listen to the parent voices and give them not only an opportunity to connect with the different organizations and agencies that are providing help or information for them, but to connect with each other. I think it's through those meaningful conversations that we see people realize they're not alone in what it is they want for their child, or they're not alone with some of the frustrations that they're experiencing. And we together can do far more than any one of us can do separately. So really giving space. I know in some of the Stronger Me, Stronger We workshops that we're doing on the Sun Coast of Florida, we make sure that we're providing the same amount of time for high quality content as we are for discussion among the participants. That it's truly in getting to know each other and feeling the support of the other people in the circle that real, authentic power is created. And through those connections, I think so much can happen, not directed by us, but directed by the people who need to see a change.
And that word connection is so central. And alongside that, I would put the word trust, which is just so elemental to any ability to truly collaborate and make progress.
Well, so now I've got to throw out my little quote that change happens at the speed of trust. Yeah.
That is on a Post-it note on my wall, and I hope we all can remember it, because and it's not something you get set and you just put it on autopilot. It takes constant reaffirming work week to week, if not day to day. Thank you, Beth. Liletta, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to say access and support is going to be my two for parents. Access to early education, because I know that there are childcare centers and there's Head Starts and pre-Ks, but it's not enough of them. And so access to quality early childhood education. Also access to adult education or adult literacy or home visiting programs. Access to prenatal care, child wellness, mental health, behavioral health services, and then support for special education, support for struggling students, and also support for ELL resources, such as like early intervention, specialized training if needed for parents that that don't speak the language, for being able to provide services or supports for those families. And so again, access and support, I think, is what we need to build a stronger parent nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Liletta. That was quite an inspiring and ambitious list, and every one of those items feels essential. Jane, what do you have to add?
It's okay with you. I would love to just share a quick video of one of our Too Small to Fail parent advisors. And she recently spoke at a convening that we held, just as from the perspective of a mom of 2 young children, heavily affected by the pandemic. I think Veronica, she was also my daughter's preschool teacher, and also has a son with special needs. And so I hope I can share this video, just because I wouldn't do justice reading it myself, but I just want to elevate Veronica's voice here while we had the opportunity. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Life has gotten really heavy, and I often feel like I'm spread so thin that I'm almost transparent. And maybe that's why, as a mom, I feel often unheard and unseen. But I still continue to be determined, to give my children the absolute best of the best in every way that I can. And that includes giving them the best of me, although doing that during these difficult times is very hard. I have to be mom, teacher, playmate, therapist, nurse, chef. Sometimes, I remember that I'm a wife and a person as well, but nonetheless, I try to give the best for my kids.
I just had to share that, from Veronica's perspective and her own voice. And when I think, I guess my words are strength and asset, because when I hear Veronica's words, I see strength and I see assets. And I hope that as a society and through this book and through the messages, we can view parents as assets and strengths and the most creative ideas. When we think about approaches or solutions, they're directly from the parents. And so, but I think in terms of what she said, that I feel so unseen and I feel so unheard. And Beth, so Ginger, I saw your note about connecting them to political systems, placing them in positions of leadership, so that they feel seen and they feel heard, and that they do have a seat at the table when decisions are made or resources are being developed. So strength and asset, those two would be my words in terms of how we view parents and how we can elevate them.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was a really moving clip, and I'm really glad we could see it directly rather than just read it on a page. And that just reminds us of how important parent voice is in everything we do. I want to invite the Parent Nation National Campaign Director, Yoli Flores, to join us for a briefing on how we can take and harness all of this amazing energy and all of this deep commitment to making the world better for our parents and children, for our own collective future, and move along in this work. It's so inspiring and so essential. So thank you, Yoli, for joining us, and we can't wait to hear what your insights are about the next steps for all of us.
Well, thank you, Ginger, and what a great conversation. I especially love it because I miss all of you. Having left the campaign several months ago to join Dana, which was an absolute dream come true. I pinch myself every day that I get to partner with her and that we get to be totally immersed and engaged in doing, I think, what so many of us have struggled to try to achieve. And it's not just she and I together, but it's all of us, all of you, all 278 on this webinar, plus all the other people that care about kids, that we all get to do this work together. So I'm excited to talk to you about the central question, which is, how might we achieve a parent nation? How would we achieve these 3 F's of foster community, forge collective identity,
fight for change. So I'm going to pick up where Dana left off as she was talking about these 3 F's and really walk you through the campaign as we are developing it, as we're iterating and creating tools and resources, because we want all of you to have these tools and these resources so that we can collectively push and fight for a parent nation. So let's move to the next slide, Sierra, and just briefly tell you that we have 3 primary strategies in developing the campaign. And yes, Dana likes to joke that nobody reads books anymore. And so she asked me to join her in ensuring that we had not only this powerful book, which I have already read, and I hope all of you read, but that we anchor it to a national campaign to elevate the message and to really begin to put in place the pieces that will get us to a parent nation. So we'll have the traditional book publicity. The book, as you've heard, will be out in April. All of you get a free copy. We wanted, thanks to Hearing First and the Oberkotter Foundation, wanted to make sure that our most essential allies and parents who might not be able to afford to buy the book, that we remove that barrier. And so we're grateful that the book will be available to you at no cost. But in April, you'll start to hear a lot from us, especially if you sign up for our newsletter, about all of the events that will happen in that week when the book is out in late April. We also have what we call an air game. So all the ways in which we'll develop a messaging campaign, you'll start to see the branding, the logo, the website, all of those things that elevate and push our message out. That's the second strategy. And then the third, which is where I'm going to spend most of my time, is to talk to you about the on-the-ground activation effort. And this is where I so hope that you will join, that you will take advantage of the free tools and resources that we're developing, and that you're part of this activation process of really engaging parents and allies to build a parent nation. Next slide. So let me talk about the 4 parts of the activation effort, and then I'll focus on one of these, which is the one that we've spent the majority of our time over the past several months. So at the back of the book, first of all, we have an action guide. Often people will read a powerful book like Parent Nation is, and will want to know, what can I do? What's the next step? So we have at the end of the book all the ways that you can become involved, engaged, activated in pushing and fighting for a parent nation. We know that those of you who do love to read are often part of book clubs. So we've developed a book discussion guide. We'll encourage people to look at the Suncoast model of the book circles and all the ways in which they've been very successfully engaging communities and parents in reading and engaging around a book, like The Power of Presence, for example. But the book discussion guide will also be another way of reading the book and then really engaging in deep conversation within your book circles or your book clubs. Third is what we're calling the Parent Village curriculum and materials. And I'm going to spend a lot of time on that in the next few minutes, the rest of my time, to talk about that and to introduce you to these resources and these tools. And then the third part of our ground activation effort will be the creation of social media parent groups. So you'll start to see those emerge, and we hope that you will share that with your parents and invite them to participate if that so moves them to do so. So let me walk you through the Parent Village resources. And we've spent a little bit of time using the word village. And so we're building really on the concept of all the ways in which parents in community get support with and from each other. And so this notion of a parent village takes us to that and an elevated level of that idea. So we wanted to be sure to create opportunities, experiences for parents in local community around this idea that parents deserve support. And around the idea that, which some of you have talked about, some of our commentators talked about, for parents to no longer feel alone, that too many parents, almost all parents, are experiencing enormous amount of stress, frustration, guilt, that they're not doing enough, that things falling apart. And we wanted to create a space for parents to form community, to be there for each other, and then to talk and explore the ways in which together we can change this country for what it does for parents and children. So we've developed a curriculum with 4 sessions, 90 minutes each. We are in the process of beta testing these sessions, so we're getting direct feedback from parents. Again, we have been talking to parents all along, and their input has helped us shape the curriculum. The curriculum is interactive. It's very engaging. I'm going to show you a few things in a minute, but it's also intended to be flexible and modular. And what I mean by that is, if you're a parent who wants to bring together a group of other parents to engage in this parent village experience, you might just want to pick 2 of the 4 sessions, or you could do all 4, or you could pick out the activities that you want to engage other parents around. They will all be contributing to the power of what we better understand about this country, about the lack of support, but more importantly, about the promise of what the society could be and how we get there. We'll also have a toolkit for any person who wishes to host a group, so you don't have to be an experienced facilitator. We have developed a step-by-step scripted curriculum that you can take, you can adapt, you can put your own words into it, but it's all there if you need some extra hand holding. It will be available in English and in Spanish, completely free. White label, which means we encourage you to add your own logo, your own organizational logo if you want. We want you to feel like this is yours, your resource for you to bring parents together around this idea of a parent village. Next slide. So as we developed the content for these resources, we kept a few things in mind. One is that we know parents are often very stressed. They have a lot on their shoulders. They're very busy. So we wanted to make sure that the 90 minutes of each session was inviting, engaging, supportive, and actually something that a parent would want to be a part of. And at the end of the day, what we're reaching for with these 4 sessions, number 1 is that we're elevating parents' expectations of society. I think you heard Dana speak earlier that too many parents feel like they just have to go at it alone, that it's their responsibility alone. There are no expectations for anybody to really support them and help them. We need to change that because it doesn't have to be that way. We also want to make sure that at the end of these 4 sessions, we've contributed to the idea of strengthening a collective identity, that all parents love their children, all parents need support. And then finally, the curriculum leads us through an experience where we are inspiring members of that parent village to be a change maker, to be part of building a parent nation. So those are aspirations for the parent villages and the curriculum. Let me take you through the 4 sessions very quickly so you get a sense of how we accomplish this. All right, so in the first session, again, these are 90 minutes, very engaging. Every session will have an activity or a game. The first session will be anchored around a set of founding principles. I put one of them here as an example. There are 6 founding principles. So we're introducing parents to the idea of a parent nation and of their village as a place for support, a place where they don't have to feel alone, where they're there to learn and listen and engage and feel heard with each other, from each other, and also to let go of the pressures to be that perfect parent and that they have to go at it alone. So they'll spend 45 minutes in conversation, discussion. They have these founding principle cards. Parents will have an opportunity to read them, respond to the prompts. Because we know that not all parents are equal in terms of their literacy level, we encourage the host or the facilitator to pair parents up with somebody else who might feel more comfortable reading the card. Again, these will be in English and in Spanish. Or if somebody wants to read it out loud for them, that can happen as well. So lots of engagement, lots of discussion. We also introduced the idea in session 1 of a village activity that will culminate in session 4. And the activity is simply, again, we didn't want to overload parents with homework or with more things to do. So we're simply asking them, what would your ideal parent nation look like? What would it feel like to you? And we want you to think about this over the 4 sessions when we're together. And in session 4, share that with your community in your parent village. And it could either be words, it could be a picture, it could be a drawing, it could be a video, any way, so that by the end of session 4, we're beginning to collect across all the parent villages, parent voice, and amplifying that voice and creating a visual image on our website with all the ways that parents are envisioning a parent nation. So that's session 1. Let's go to session 2. In session 2, this is where we will begin to go deep on the idea of forging collective identity and elevating expectations. And this is the activity that has everybody so excited as we've been testing focus groups at the Parents as Teachers Conference in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago. It continues to get really strong reviews, and I'll show you why in a minute. So in this activity, it's about a 50-minute activity. Parents will write down on Post-it notes their needs, their highest 5 priority needs. It could be around housing, it could be childcare, it could be healthcare. And then they're going to put their Post-it note on the side of the scale where that need is getting met. So whether it's you, a neighbor, your grandparent, somebody who's helping you on your own are taking care of that need, you put the Post-it on the left-hand side under individuals. If that need is getting met on the institution side, you place it on the institution side. And so that shows the current reality for the parent. And then we bring that same visual of the scale in another blank page. It's on a poster size. And the parents do it again, but this time they'll put their needs on how, if they lived in the ideal society, that need would get met. So as you can imagine, the scale is not ever balanced. So if you go to this next slide, I'll show you what we learned in Baltimore from the parents that helped us participate in this as we were testing this. So on the left, in Parents Lived Reality, the majority of parents will start to see, they've known this, but when they see it visually, it's a very powerful experience. So you'll see that the majority of those needs are being met either on their own or somewhere in the middle, mixed between institution and the individual. And when they talk about the ideal society, and they do this again, it's much less on their shoulders alone. It's much more balanced. There's more in the middle, and there's more on the end of society. And when we asked parents what this activity did for them, they recognized that the society that we live in today, it was this big aha moment. It doesn't have to be that way, and it could actually be so much more powerful, and the outcomes for our children could be so much greater if society played a stronger role in supporting parents. So that's the big shift activity. Let's go now to the next slide. This is session 3. In session 3, we start to engage in a conversation about fighting for change. And we introduce this idea of change makers. We use the literature around social change, community change, to explore the 4 typical roles in community organizing: the rebel, the helper, the advocate, the organizer. we added a fifth role, which is storyteller. So parents will begin to explore, and we have these set of cards. I'm not going to go into detail, but again, just to show you that everything is sort of activity-based. They will explore these roles and identify the roles that they're most comfortable with based on their strengths, their gifts, their talents. And then they will land on one of those roles that they most preferred. And then we take them to the second half of the session where they're doing change makers speed dating. And so they'll start to engage and share with each other the role they picked for themselves, learn about the role that the other person selected, all in the spirit of recognizing that we all bring gifts, we all have strengths, whether it's the helper or the rebel or the storyteller, and that together, all of these change makers is what can get us to fight and succeed in getting and having a parent nation. And then finally in session 4, which is the next slide, this is our last session. So there'll be a bit of a celebration toward the end. But before we get there, we play the final game. It's called Parent Nation Bingo. And here parents will be learning about all the ways in which historically we have had stops and starts in policy and investment for children and families. Policies that made it for 8 years and then got wiped away. Organizations that have been fighting this fight for a long time. And most importantly, we lift up parents who themselves have been change makers and have helped change happen, so that they can begin to see themselves that making change is possible, that they have gifts and strengths and power to make things happen. As they learn about all these different efforts, historical efforts, bright spots of change makers, organizations doing incredible work. Many of your organizations are actually in this bingo card. Parents begin to learn that there is all this activity and we need to harness it, bring it together and elevate it so that we're really making a stronger push together for a parent nation. And then in the last part of session 4, parents will introduce and share their idea of a parent nation. Remember, we introduced that idea in session 1. And they will share with each other their ideal society, what it would look like. And they can represent it again in a video, in a poem, in a set of words. Maybe they could, if they don't want to write anything, they can just say, and we could record that because we want to upload that again and amplify parent voice on our website in that way. And then we end with actions that this village wants to begin to take as a group or individually. We will connect them to existing advocacy organizations that they might not know about. Maybe this particular parent village is very hot on paid parental leave, which doesn't look like it's going to make it into the Build Back Better legislation. So maybe they want to connect with a national or a state or a local group that's already fighting for that, so they don't have to start from scratch. We could connect them to that kind of engagement and advocacy effort that may already be going on. Maybe they don't want to get involved at all. Maybe they don't have time. We know, again, parents with young children are very busy, but they might begin to think differently about who they vote for, about the kinds of things they talk about, how they talk about their experience as parents and what it should be like in this nation. So we give parents all the ways in which they can take the next step for them to consider. Okay, these are the 4 sessions. Again, you could pick and choose or bring it all together. All of these resources are available to you for no cost, English, Spanish. Add your logo. We're putting the packaging together over the next several months. We're in beta testing now so that we're hearing back from parents how they resonate with each of these sessions and all of the material. And then it'll be fully available to any of you by the time we launch the book in April. My last slide, since, let me just check on time. Ginger, how am I doing on time?
You are fine if we just go right to Q&A afterwards. So you've got a few more minutes.
Okay, let's skip this video because I want to go to the last slide. This is the focus group at Parents as Teachers. I just wanted to share with you all the wonderful feedback that this group of parents gave us on all of the activities. It was incredibly positive. We got good feedback, which we're incorporating. And again, we will continue to do that. Okay, my very last slide is what can you do right now? How can you take action given that we're still months away from the book? Because we want to engage you today and bring you on as part of our Parent Nation ambassadors. So one, make sure you claim your free Parent Nation book. We've in the chat box provided you the registration. Please, please, please make sure you claim your book. We wanted as many books to go to the GLR campaign as possible. Number two, we'd love you to share about Parent Nation with your networks, with your friends, with your coworkers, and to anybody outside of our echo chamber. We keep talking to ourselves. We need to get out of the echo chamber and introduce this idea about fighting for a Parent Nation and why it matters. We'd love you to sign up for our forthcoming Parent Nation newsletter. You'll see a link in the chat for signing up for the newsletter or to host a parent village. If you loved those activities and you would love to at least even consider hosting a parent village in your community, we'd love you to sign up just so we can send you information, answer any questions, and to help you begin planning for that process now. And then finally, today, you could also retweet posts from today's webinar, go to the @ReadingBy3rd Twitter or the hashtag Learning Tuesdays, because there'll be lots of activity from our session today that we can piggyback on and amplify. Okay, that was a lot. You all will have my information to ask any questions or follow up. We're going to be working hard over the next 3 to 4 months to finalize all of these resources, create other resources, and engage with you to have you be part of building a Parent Nation. All right, all done on my end, Ginger.
Thank you, Yoli. Wow, that image that really sticks with me is the sticky notes of lived reality and ideal society, and the idea that maybe if we all work hard and keep this work going, build this campaign, we can have those be the same thing. That would be just incredible. I want to invite everybody on the panel back to show us your face, and we have some questions that have come in that I'm going to run through in the time we have left. If we don't get to your question, we'll be sure to follow up with you directly to give you answers. Some of them are very simple and quick. Some of them are much bigger and more macro. So this is for everybody, although there are a couple here that may be specifically for Dana and Yoli as they build the work toward the book's release and the campaign. Don Moody asks, will there be an app or a TikTok component to the book that will allow us to start community around Parent Nation, thinking about that forging community piece?
That has been under consideration. All the ways in which we can connect and create a network of these parent villages. So one way is through social media groups like Facebook or WhatsApp. So we're exploring all of those ways. I don't have a firm answer yet. Some of it we're trying to sort of understand from parents, especially what would work best for them. So if you have thoughts and ideas, please share them with us. We're exploring all of these kinds of connection network strategies over the next few weeks and months.
Thank you, Yoli. Monica Fisher asks, I work in a K-12 setting. What hope, inspiration, or practical advice can you give to families that have school-age children and may feel like it's too late to start focusing on this matter? And this may really be a good question for everybody, but whoever feels like they can take that, it's a big one.
I'll just briefly speak to it. First of all, this book isn't about it's ever too late. And in fact, using the framework of neuroscience to imagine what a just society looks like actually benefit. This is about all parents. Obviously, we focus on the first few years of life because that's when it's most intensive. That's really when society has completely, not been supportive. But this is not about only parents during the early period of time. This is really about for all parents to elevate their expectations of how society should be supporting them.
Thank you, Dana. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to move along. Maureen O'Brien asks, how many of you have parents on the board of your organization? It has made a tremendous difference to us at our organization, Families First in Massachusetts, where she notes that they have included them at every level. I wonder if the commentators can also speak to this quickly.
I think we do have parents on our children's policy councils across the state. It is very important to hear their voices. As state leaders, we think we know what parents need, but it helps to hear directly from them. So their voices has helped to inform our work.
Yes, and I would say not only on boards, but community conversations, parent advisory groups. We make it a practice anytime we gather with parents to make sure that there's an opportunity to hear voices, and then through relationship as well, really making sure that those connections are in place so that when issues arise, that parents have an idea of who they can call, how they can reach out to the community and find resources that can help them. The relationship has to be built before the crisis in order for that to happen.
And just to add to that, as I mentioned before, we're forming a family and parent advisory board consisting of all parents and caregivers. I noticed, Maureen, in your comment, you had talked about every level, but I would add to that just every stage from the beginning as well, and having them represented at every stage of development.
Great, thank you, Jane. A question from Jody Ann Hudson. Is there a central place for caregivers and parents to access important resources like a website which lists the state, then county, then all early education agencies, businesses, organizations, services available in that state? Does somebody have an answer to that, Yoli?
I love that question because first of all, if you sign up for our newsletter, we'll let you know when all our resources, including the website, will be ready. We're in development of the website right now. But one of our aspirations is to have on our website, state by state, all of the various ways that parents and others can get involved on issues related to supporting parents and having parents and children at the center. So that if you're a parent village in San Antonio, for example, and your group was really excited about, I don't know, pediatric care, and somebody that is maybe elevating access to that, maybe there's already an organization there that you can connect to. So we have wonderful graduate students at the University of Chicago that are doing all of the research so that state by state and within communities, we are identifying the places and resources that parents can already connect to.
Thank you, Yoli. Beth Mills asked a question which I think actually mirrors what we've all been here today talking about. I'm going to ask it and see if there's further insights or deeper insights on the specific question. She asks, or she says, listening to needs and utilizing the needs of those families impacted to drive a collective voice and mission is powerful. Finding ways to pull diverse stakeholders together, working toward a shared goal is always challenging. Suggestions for building support and consensus to drive an initiative? Question mark. That's a big one. Anybody want to take a stab at an idea or two beyond the things we talked about? Connection, trust, the forging, fostering, fighting.
Well, I can't stand the silence, Ginger, so I'm going to jump in.
That's great.
I do think that we have found more consensus when we focus on our aspirations rather than what the current problems are. I think if we start the conversation with what's not working, there's a lot of finger pointing and a lot of blame that can be, distributed around. But in the community conversations that we have, we really strive to keep them aspirationally driven. So what is it we want for our children? And what is it going to take for us to get there? And it keeps, not always, but it tends to keep us out of the blame game and more towards what we can accomplish, and has us all thinking about what are the assets that we have that we can bring to the table rather than that scarcity mindset.
I'd just like to add to that in that if you ask me one thing that could come from the book, or I guess several things, one would be an elevation of expectation. I think that so often, number one, we talk about parents as if they're someone else, right? We are all parents. I mean, I think that's one important thing. And number two, that it's about shifting the narrative. Right now, the narrative, because of American individualism, just we actually take on everybody this idea that it's all on us, and when we fail, we're failing in all parts of our lives and we feel guilty. And it's about shifting the narrative, elevating the expectations, like instead of why am I failing, why is society failing us, and sort of to build that sort of new view. Because before you can start saying, look, we need to fight for change, or why is it this way, you actually have to believe that it's not even that you deserve support, but that society is actually benefiting from all that we do as parents, all parents. So for me, it's also elevating those expectations of what society should be doing, not that they're doing us a favor, but we're building the next generation.
Thank you, Dana. And as you all can see, the Learning Tuesdays poll has just popped up. We really rely on your feedback to help us make sure we're continuing to deliver content that is useful to you. So take a few minutes to answer this poll. Give us the feedback we need so we can keep providing good content to you. And we'll keep going with questions for a few minutes longer. This is one I know a great deal of our participants today are from school districts. So this question from Karen Formisano, I think, is a good one. I would love to run through our school district. I think she means Parent Villages through our school district. We are Title I and have a very diverse community. Would you recommend offering this to admin and teachers first, maybe through professional development?
Oh, I love that idea. And we have one of our key strategies for the Parent Villages is to engage employers. And so as a school district, in many places, school districts are the largest employer. And in having, especially progressive employers, but hopefully all employers, create spaces for parents to have these conversations can actually help these employers create a better work environment. And right now, a better work environment is really important because there is a lot of competition for good employees across almost every sector. And I know, having started my career as a work family specialist at a very unlikely place for a social worker called the LA Department of Water and Power, we created a work and family program there. And the return on investment was incredible. There were all these studies going on about the work we were doing, from morale to attendance to productivity to tardiness to absenteeism. All of that, the return back to that employer, in this case, the school district, is pretty powerful. So we want to engage that discussion also with employers. But both, if the school district would like to offer this for their teachers, their administrators, but also through Title I for parents, imagine how powerful that could be, where teachers and administrators and the parents that they're serving see themselves as all needing the kind of support for the very important work of raising children.
And it moves it slightly more, if not greatly, into the essential column as opposed to an add-on that's an afterthought. I think that's a fascinating idea. We have a question. I think we have time for a couple more. Carolyn Lyons asks, how are you thinking about ongoing infrastructure and capacity to sustain the work in communities once the sessions are completed? Is that an opportunity for local GLR community funding partners to provide that local capacity support?
Well, yay for Cal for asking a fabulous question. I miss you, Cal. Carolyn Lyons also worked for the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, and so we were close colleagues. Many of you know her. So yes, our aspiration is that the tools and resources that we are developing that get accessed by anybody in a community, GLR communities in particular, because we know that this is central to the work that you're doing. And then having you really be the architects of these parent villages, or those that convene parents and support them. There are many organizations across the country that we're talking to that already do this kind of parent leadership, parent advocacy, parent engagement. And they've been waiting for a resource like this. So they're going to take our materials and add it to the work that they're already doing in their communities. And so it's these organizations, whether they're social sector organizations or employers, that are really providing the support to make this happen in community.
Fantastic. A couple of really quick ones. Becky Miles Polka asks, will there be some training on the resources when they are ready for release?
So we're also in the toolkit creating some videos that will walk any person who wants to host a village or serve as the facilitator. By the way, when we use the word facilitator, we're trying to be very careful that it's not interpreted as having to be anybody in a professional setting as a facilitator, although if you are, that's great, but you don't have to be, which is why this training video is going to be really important. I also want to, just before we launch, a month before we launch all the materials in partnership with the book, is to host a series of virtual events like this to walk everybody through the curriculum, answer any questions. So all of that will get scheduled around March. And then after that, everything will be available online through these videos, or upon request, depending on our own bandwidth, we might do them quarterly, for example.
That's great to know. One more for our Parent Villages experts here. Based on your beta testing, this is from Wendy Resnick, what is the ideal audience size for the workshops?
That was also Loletta's question.
Right?
We're recommending 8 to 10, primarily because of the activities. You know, you need a good number of people to engage and partner and discuss. So we want to keep them small in number, no fewer than 6, probably no more than 10. But again, if you're an organization that has a lot of expertise in parent leadership groups and you want to manage a slightly better, larger group, then we defer to you. All of our resources are flexible, and we want to honor the wisdom that's already out in the community for the ways in which we bring parents together. So we defer to your judgment, your wisdom, but also if this is new to you, again, that toolkit will be very helpful in terms of some parameters and guidance.
Fantastic. We are just a couple of minutes away from our time up being together. I want to just take everybody back to Dana's exhortation that if there's only one thing you remember today, it's the 3 F's. I'm going to say them again, Dana. I hope I get them right. Foster community, forge collective identity, and fight for change. Dana, do you want to add anything to that as a coda before we wrap up? And I have a couple of quick reminders at the very end.
No, I just really want to thank everyone and to say that this is what you all are already doing. Now we need the rest of the country to realize that we need to be a parent nation, and that this is not just a child or a family issue. This is foundational to all social justice issues in our country, whether it be civil rights or gender equality. Unless we figure out and deal with these issues, we'll be fighting another 50 years. So I just want to thank everyone, and it was, remember those 3 F's, because I'm going to be right along with you.
Thank you, Dana. I will say that forging and sustaining a national movement, a campaign like this, is hard work. And I know I speak for Loletta, Beth, Jane, Sarah, Sierra, and everyone here, Yoli and Dana, when I say that we are really here to be a part of the success of this work Go ahead, Dana.
Let me just be clear. We are not forging it. You all are.
Well, collectively,
We're manifesting what we want to see in this world. So thank you for leading all the work that you do. So.
everybody here is a part of this, and we're so grateful for the connections we each bring to parents and communities across our country. We need to, as somebody said in their comments today, link arms and keep moving forward. With just a couple of minutes, so thank you everybody for being with us today. A special thank you to all of our panelists, just an extraordinary conversation. I want to quickly give a reminder about the upcoming GLR sessions. Please make plans to join us for another GLR Learning Tuesdays session co-sponsored by Overdeck Family Foundation, with presentations from Teaching Lab, Public Impact, Ed Reports, Education Resource Strategies, and Columbia University Center for Public Research and Leadership. This session will explore the ways in which high-quality instructional materials and high-quality professional learning enabled stronger homeschool connections during the pandemic, and how they can be utilized to address teacher staffing concerns now. We'll have another double header next week. You can see them listed here, the Crucible Practice Salon at 12:30. Following at 3 o'clock with the Learning Loss Recovery Challenge. And finally, a funder to funder conversation the following week, seizing the moment, philanthropic strategies to promote the child tax credit. I'm sorry to rush through those. We are out of time, but I did just want to make sure everybody knows these are happening. Please sign up and join us for any of these conversations that pique your interest. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care, be well, and Parent Nation.